Hey, what's up, Unbroken Nation? So, what I'd love to start with and dive into a little bit deeper here
Mhm.
is, for the folks listening of the Unbroken Nation, these amazing people that are trying to create this massive change in their life, and maybe they hear us and like, yeah, I get that, man. I feel so small every day.
Yeah.
Like, what thoughts do you have about that?
I think first and foremost, don't beat yourself up about it, right? I think we have this sort of, thing that happens when we do something that we don't like or we feel like is lesser than us. We shame ourselves, right? We have this negative talk that we talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to anybody else, right? And and I think, that's the first thing. You have to understand that, you are not broken. There is not something wrong with you. You're just acting out a pattern that you were taught somewhere, some way, and sometimes it helps to view yourself as like a child, because you would never, most rational people would never be disgusting to a child as far as like saying, disparaging things to them or want to hurt a child, right? You want to take care of a child because you understand the beauty and innocence in that child, right? So I think that's the start, is just not shaming yourself when it comes to these things, and then I think you have to kind of think about the life that you want to lead. You want to live a life that is worthy of you, because we're all here and able to do amazing things. It just takes us kind of being able to tap into the different sides of ourselves and kind of push against some of the narratives that we've been taught, and at the end of the day, anybody that you meet that may want you to be smaller, may try and make you feel smaller, that doesn't want you to show up as your full and authentic self, like that's not somebody that's meant to be in your life, right? And you have to get really okay with that. You have to be okay with the fact that some people just are not meant to be in your life, and it's not up to you to try to convince them to like you, to try and convince them to want you around. Like, you as yourself is enough, and if it's not for that person, it's okay to move on from that, but don't make yourself smaller just to, appease somebody who really doesn't hold much value in your life when you really think about it.
Yeah, I mean that's spot on, and I've spent so much time, especially over probably the last 5 or 6 years, just
Hmm.
looking at the environment that I'm in and asking
Yeah.
myself, does this serve me?
Right.
Do these people bring value to my life? Does it make
Hmm.
sense that I'm in this situation? Am I
Yeah.
in alignment with my values? And
Right.
I think so many people get caught up and they're like, yeah, but they've been my friends for 20 years. And I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, but they're doing the same shit you guys did 20 years ago.
Right. Right.
Like where is the growth here? Jay-Z has one of my favorite quotes of all time.
Yeah.
People around you saying that you changed. Well, I
Mm.
didn't do all this work to stay the same. And I
Right.
think that so much of this journey is in the willingness to be like, I've done this work. I don't want to be who I
Hmm.
was yesterday anymore. And
Right.
I
Right.
think in that, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess the way that you look at it, there are
Hmm.
people who are going to be removed from your life.
Right.
How do you handle that? Because I think so many people get caught up in that and they're just like, I just can't. They've known them forever. But, how do you decipher whether or not you're making the right decision in that moment?
I think you have to first and foremost dedicate yourself to a life of growth, right? I think that is, if you really broke down the name of the game when it comes to life in general, it's all about evolution, right? Like, we shouldn't be the same person we were 10 years ago, right? Like, we should have learned something within those 10 years. And as much as you'd love to take people with you, if they're not on the same journey as you have to kind of let them go their own path, right? And there's something beautiful about that. And that doesn't mean it's forever. Maybe at some point in life they will, stop going to the bars every weekend, with the idea of just wanting to hook up with girls all day or something like that, right? Like, that's something I've had to kind of come to terms with. That, same thing like you said, my friends are doing the same shit we were doing in our 20s, and not much has changed for them. And I'm not here for that anymore. I'm looking for something more out of life. Now, that doesn't mean that, God forbid, something bad happens to them, I'm not going to be here to answer their call. Of course, for my friends who I've shared a lot with, they always have that, but it doesn't mean I have to keep them in my circle on a regular basis like I used to. I have to kind of let them go off and do their own path. And if our paths never cross again, it wasn't, meant to be for us to have a lifelong relationship. It's just like a romantic relationship. I mean, how many people had, middle school girlfriends or high school girlfriends, right? I don't think most of us are pining over like the girl that broke our heart in 5th grade. You know what I mean? Like, we recognize that was an elementary school relationship. Like, I don't know that person anymore. My life is drastically different than it was in fifth grade. And you kind of have to look at it that way with certain friends. You have to get clear on the life that you want, and anything that doesn't align with that is, at the end of the day, holding you back, and that means people as well. So while it's difficult, while of course it's not an easy decision or an easy process to kind of go through, at the end of the day, you have to have a dedication to becoming a happier, far more evolved person, and a more fulfilled person as a result.